Hey guys, it's me Saran, back with another video. So I want pancakes. As you guys know, the only place that I can get pancakes in the middle of the day with a drive-thru so I don't have to get out of my car is McDonald's. I know a lot of you find me going to McDonald's to be triggering. So I'm telling you, from now, that's where I'm going. I'm going to get some pancakes. I wanted to film this quick video as it is, you guys know I normally don't do posts on Saturday, but I wanted to film this video to kind of talk about, well, two things. One, they're doing this March for Our Lives thing, which is like a march that was organized by the Parkland kids, you know, that were victims of that school shooting in Florida. A lot of people have been talking about, yet again, as we've talked about previously, how this is a prime example of the way that fucking black people are treated like shit in this country. That, you know, the Ferguson uprising, the Baltimore uprising, the Black Lives Matter movement wasn't met with like all this fucking, you know, celebrity support and people donating money and they having a fucking concert with Ariana Grande, even though maybe Ariana Grande feels personally because there was a shooting at her concert a few months ago and all those people died, so maybe she feels, you know, like personally invested. But people are talking about, you know, how like when it's black youth talking about shit that's going on for us and gun violence against us, like Trayvon Martin was fucking shot and killed with a gun, like fucking Philando Castile, like police brutality, people getting shot and killed by fucking police officers, and, you know, talking about state-sanctioned violence against black bodies and the active oppression of black bodies in this country, how that's, you know, that's a problem, right? That's unacceptable, you know? Taking a knee to fucking combat police brutality is unacceptable. But everybody's gonna rally around the little fucking Parkland kids and, oh yeah, these kids are our futures and these kids are showing you how it's done in terms of activism. Like, niggas been fucking protesting and shit for about 5 years now, and y'all either fucking actively ignored the black youth, kids that are even the same age as these fucking Parkland kids, actively ignored them, demonized them, vilified them, criminalized them, tried to make them, you know, into criminals that were doing something wrong by fucking exercising their right to civil disobedience. But now we're gonna rally around these fucking white kids because not only are they white, they're also affluent. Parkland is like an affluent community in Florida. So they have this march, and some of the kids did say, I think one of the little girls, her name's Naomi Wilden, something like that. Some of the kids did say, you know, that we recognize that the only reason why we're here with this platform is because we have privilege, you know, like we have privilege as affluent kids from an affluent neighborhood, as white kids that are going to be taken seriously. You know, we are not demonized and criminalized as black bodies. The little girl Naomi was black, though, let me make that clear, and she got up and said on her speech, you know, like, I'm just a regular African-American girl, you know, after this I'm gonna go back to being black and regular, you know. And so I feel like I have to use my voice to kind of point that out because people don't want to talk about it, and it's a clear double standard. It's a clear double standard. A lot of people have been talking about, you know, what types of activism are considered appropriate, you know, like, oh, it's appropriate for fucking little white kids that have privilege and affluence to talk about gun violence when it comes to school shootings. I did a whole video on white male rage and how the majority of school shootings and mass shootings, the majority of gun violence perpetuated, you know, in terms of a mass shooting or a school shooting in this country is by white males, and specifically white Christian males, which brings me to motherfucking Mark Condit, bitch ass, Austin bomber who got caught, white boy. These white people have problems, number one, especially these fucking white boys. They're entitled. They feel like everything is supposed to be handed to them on a silver fucking platter. The world's supposed to revolve around them, and when shit doesn't go their way, and it could be even something as small as when I made my white male rage video, it was after the Chapel Hill shooting where the white guy killed that young couple. because he felt some type of way that Muslims moved into his apartment building. Like, listen, bitch, I'm the master of this domain. White, so I gotta be right. I'm the master of everything I see, like the Pride Lands. I don't want you moving into this apartment complex, so I'm going to kill you. Okay, like, all these fucking mass shootings have gone back to you know, oh, he was troubled, because now you have, oh, Mark Condit was troubled. He was a troubled, you know, poor little fucking white kid. No, here's somebody that killed 2 black people, killed 2 fucking black people. One of which was a 17-year-old kid that just found out that he got into fucking Oberlin Music Conservatory. This is not a fucking troubled, challenged young man. This is a white domestic terrorist, which we also have fucking talked about on this channel. The reluctance to call anybody that's not brown or black a terrorist, a thug, or a fucking criminal. If you're white, oh, it's perfectly fine. PSA, the New York Times is a white nationalist rag. They have a history of writing biased headlines in favor of fucking white criminals over black victims. And it's actually been highlighted recently. They said they're gonna like respond to that because they ran a headline about the Austin bomber that said, like, you know, challenged youth or something. And somebody did a side-by-side comparison. Oh my goodness, look at this line. I'm not waiting in this line. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go somewhere else. And somebody did a side-by-side comparison where they were like, you know, you guys called Trayvon Martin a marijuana user. It says something like, oh, youth Trayvon Martin that was killed smoked marijuana. It's like, but like a white criminal, a bomber, a serial bomber that killed 2 people and injured 3 more, you're gonna run a headline about how he was a misunderstood, you know, challenged, damaged youth. But a black victim is criminalized as a marijuana user. You know what I'm saying? And it's even like marijuana is even like being decriminalized, and like you have all these white people that are getting rich off this shit, yet it's still being used as a way to vilify and criminalize black victims. Like, all this shit reminds me of the fucking Women's March, which I did a video on. People that expect fucking black women, oh, why aren't you gonna go march for women? March for women. It's like, well, where were you bitches when we were marching for black lives? Like, just the constant devaluing across the board of black bodies. And I hate to like bring up the Bruno Mars shit, but like, this is why I go so hard on Bruno Mars, because you guys know I like to say that revolution is like a car, right? Revolution is like a car, and everybody kind of has their own role. Everybody has to play their position. Some people are the steering wheels, some people are the brakes, some people are the seats, some people are the engines, all different things. Racism is also the same. I have an old video called Racism is Like an Octopus, where you have all these different arms and tentacles, and even on the tentacles you have hundreds if not thousands of suckers. There's all these moving parts that go into systemic anti-black racism, especially here in this country. So it's like, when a fucking newspaper, especially one that champions itself as like fair and liberal and unbiased and blah blah blah, runs a headline calling a white male Christian terrorist, a serial bomber that did it solely to incite terror, and it later came out that he was a part of all these like white conservative Christian groups, and you know that he was homeschooled by an ultra religious conservative family, and you know, and he had a whole doctrine. Like, that's terrorism, right? But when a major fucking newspaper can run a headline calling a white criminal, you know, a misunderstood kid, a challenged young man, but it can call a victim of gun violence, a victim of racist gun violence, a marijuana user, in an attempt to vilify him, that's another arm of this system. Okay, when the fucking white Parkland kids get embraced and put on the cover of Time magazine, and they throw and people are donating fucking $500,000, and they're having huge fundraisers and concerts and all this shit, because now we gotta talk about fucking, you know, gun violence. Meanwhile, Black Lives Matter is fucking demonized. The Ferguson uprising is demonized. The Baltimore uprising is demonized. That's another arm of the system. Please believe wouldn't be no Parkland kids without no Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter set the fucking groundwork for this fucking stage that we find ourselves on right now, in terms of this like civic duty being a topic of national conversation. Wouldn't be none of that without Ferguson or Black Lives Matter. Don't get it fucking twisted. That's another arm of the system. When fucking they refuse to call white male shooters and mass fucking killers terrorists, but they rush to fucking criminalize black and brown bodies. That's another arm of the system, okay? When we fucking have somebody like a Bruno Mars that gets to a certain level as a non-black solely because he's a non-black artist that has to basically be rewarded. He's being rewarded for just not being black. Oh, you're not a nigger, bitch? Congratulations. Awards and money. That's another arm of the system. All this shit is different arms of a system that's pervasive, that we are plugged into like the motherfucking Matrix. It's all around us at all times. And you just have to be really aware and really cognizant of like of all this shit, okay? When you have the fucking the Women's March, which has hardly any police presence. Meanwhile, Ferguson has fucking people being hit with fucking tear gas and rubber bullets. When you have these white hoes that won't come out and protest for black lives, but they'll look at you and be like, well, you're a woman, come march for me. Fuck you, bitch. That's another arm of the system. All this shit is fucking arms and tentacles of this racist ass motherfucking system. I mean, and I guess like that's not to take nothing away from the little Parkland kids, like good on them, and also good on them for recognizing that their privilege and their affluence is what's even enabling them to have this fucking platform. But like, the system is pervasive and it's all around us, even in like our activism and this and that, like what types of activism are acceptable and unacceptable, and just the constant, again, the devaluing of black bodies. You know, we love the work of black artists. We love the work of black activists that lay a groundwork for what we can do next in terms of Parkland and the Women's March and stuff like that. But we don't love those black bodies. Those niggers still gotta go. You get what I'm saying? So that's how I feel about that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. There will be links in the description box. Food for thought as always. See you guys next time. Peace.